Hello dear students. So in my last class we started discussing about second law of thermodynamics. So there we discussed some basics before understanding the second law of thermodynamics. We have to know about some basic things which we are going to use in second law of thermodynamics, that is what is meant by spontaneous process. Right, spontaneous process means so which takes place on its own accord without any external assistance. That means we need not to apply any external force, or we need not to start that process to takes place. It is a spontaneous process. It itself will start and it will not be stopped by any external aid or accord. Okay, so such type of process are called as a spontaneous process. And also we discussed about what are the criteria for spontaneity, and we saw some examples of spontaneous process like flow of heat from a hot body to a cold body, or expansion of a gas from a region of higher region to the lower pressure. So all these were some of the examples of spontaneous process. Okay, and also we saw heat engine. So this was very interesting thing in second law of thermodynamics, that is, so heat engine, which is a device used to determine the heat that flows out spontaneously from a high temperature source to a low temperature sinks. So that was called as a heat engine. And also we saw what is meant by cyclic process, that is a process in which a system undergoes a series of changes and at the end returns to the original state, that is called as a cyclic process. And also another important term what we discussed was efficiency. So efficiency of a heat engine is defined as the ratio of the work obtained in a cyclic process to the heat absorbed from the high temperature source. So this was the terms which we understood in my last class. So in this session we are supposed to discuss about Carnot's cycle. What is meant by Carnot's cycle? Okay. So Carnot cycle means, so it is an expression we are going to give, means expression where we are going to determine or study the terms of temperature of the source and the sink. So this is obtained by considering Carnot's cycle, just like how I said cyclic process. So a Carnot's cycle is a series of operations which are carried out by an imaginary Carnot's engine. Okay, so Carnot's engine is a type of heat engine. So heat engine is a device which is used to determine the heat that flows out spontaneously from a high temperature source to a low temperature source. So here we are using a Carnot's engine. So Carnot's engine is an imaginary heat engine which is used to study the series of operations that are carried out from isothermal and adiabatic process of reactions which are going to take place in the system. Okay, so that is studied in Carnot's cycle. The Carnot cycle consists of 4 steps. Okay, so this is a 4 step. Since it is a cyclic process, definitely there should be a series of reactions that could take place. So that is why, so we are going to observe 4 different types of reactions or steps. 4 different steps are absorbed here. So the Carnot cycle has got 2 isothermal and 2 adiabatic process or steps, and all are carried out reversibly. So they are reversible. So all these 4 steps are reversible from step 1 to step 2, step 2 to step 3, step 3 to step 4, like this. So they are reversible. The reactions are reversible. You know the meaning of the word reversible. Okay. So this Carnot's engine or Carnot cycle consists of 4 steps. Out of 4 steps, 2 are isothermal and 2 are adiabatic. What is meant by isothermal? That means here temperature is kept constant. Okay. So in 2 steps where we see the isothermal steps, so those steps are carried out by keeping temperature as constant, and the 2 adiabatic processes are there, adiabatic steps. So what is meant by adiabatic? So adiabatic means no heat is exchanged between system and surroundings. Okay. So the 2 steps which are found or observed in Carnot's cycle which are adiabatic, that means here no heat is exchanged between system and surroundings. Okay. And next, the engine contains 1 mole of an ideal gas as the working substance. Okay, so here the working substance is 1 mole of ideal gas and is enclosed in a cylinder with the help of a weightless and frictionless piston. Understood? So this is how the experimental setup is made. Okay, so this is imaginary Carnot's engine, which consists of 4 steps. Out of 4 steps, 2 are isothermal and 2 are adiabatic, and here the working substance is taken as 1 mole of ideal gas, and this 1 mole of ideal gas is taken in a cylinder which is enclosed with the help of a weightless and frictionless piston. Okay. So this is how the experimental setup is made. And so what happens in step 1? So the step 1 explains that. So since I told that 2 are isothermal, so the step 1 is a isothermal step. So here the cylinder is placed on a source of heat at a temperature T2, and the gas is isothermally allowed to expand from a volume of V1 to V2. Okay. So 1 mole of ideal gas which is taken, so that 1 mole of ideal gas is blown into the cylinder. Okay. So that cylinder is placed on a source of heat at a temperature T2. Okay. So first what we have to do, we have to keep the cylinder where we are going to blow the ideal gas in a temperature of T2. So T2 will be the temperature in a system which is having a temperature of T2. The cylinder is placed, and to that we are going to pass or expand the ideal gas isothermally from a volume of V1 to V2. So this is the step 1 of the reaction what we are going to do. So here let Q2 be the amount of heat absorbed by the gas. Okay. So since this system is having certain temperature, that is T2, T2 is the temperature of the system which is placed by the cylinder. So it experiences certain amount of temperature. When a gas is blown into this cylinder, it will absorb some amount of heat. So the amount of heat which has been absorbed by the gas is called as Q2. Okay. So since the temperature is T2, so let me call the heat energy which has been absorbed by the ideal gas as Q2. Okay. So this is how we are going to write the schematic representation of Carnot's engine. Okay. So here first let me explain this. So this is a curve, that is A and B. So let me call this curve as A and B. So this curve is isothermal. So the process or the reaction what is going to take place between this A and B curve is a isothermal reaction, and let me call the pressure which the ideal gas is possessing here as a P1, and the volume of ideal gas at this stage as V1. As the reaction proceeds to reach B, so here the pressure absorbed by that ideal gas is P2 and the volume of ideal gas is V2, and here the temperature is called as T1. Okay. And from here, from curve B to C, so that is curve BC is a adiabatic reaction, and here let me call the pressure as P3 and V3. Okay. So and the temperature is T2, and in the next step, that is in the third step, the curve C and D represents the third step where I said isothermal reaction is going to takes place in this curve. Okay. And again, so from D to A, so it completes the cycle. It completes the cycle by possessing or by performing a adiabatic reaction, and the ideal gas which will be having the pressure of P4 and volume of V4 will again return to the initial state of pressure P1 and volume V1. Okay. So this is how we are going to represent the Carnot's cycle. So now we will see step by step. We were discussing the step 1. So according to the step 1, as I told here, so the work done will be equal to Q2, since the temperature is T2. So the ideal gas which has been absorbed the amount of heat which has been absorbed by the gas is called as Q2. Okay. So, now heat absorbed Q2 will be equal to the work done by the gas. Since it is a isothermal process, so let me call the work done as minus W1, which will be equal to RT2 ln V2 divided by V1. Okay. So, this is the expression which is given to the work done Q2 in the step 1, and let me call this equation as 1. The above process is represented by the curve AB in the curve. Okay. So, that is what I said. So, here the step 1 process is AB. So, here the isothermal process is going to take place, and here the work done Q2 will be equal to minus W1, which I can represent it as minus W1, which will be equal to RT2 ln V2 divided by V1, and let me call that equation as 1. Okay. And next step is step 2. So, what happens in step 2? So, the gas is then allowed to expand adiabatically. So, the step 2 is a adiabatic process. That means, here no heat is exchanged between system and surroundings. Okay. So, now let me call this call the volume as V3 as represented by the curve BC in the figure. As a result of adiabatic expansion, so the gas cools to temperature T1. So, here the temperature is going to get decreased. Okay. So, here the temperature which was T2, it is going to get changed into T1, that is because here since this is a adiabatic process, so there is no exchange of heat between the system and surrounding. So, that is why the gas will experience some cooling effect. So, that is why the temperature will be reduced from initial temperature T2 to T1. Okay. So, this is step 2. So, in step 2 what happens is, since it is a adiabatic process, there is no exchange of heat between the system and surroundings. Obviously, the gas which is present inside that cylinder, it will experience some cooling effect. Okay. So, since it experiences the cooling effect, so the temperature will be reduced. The initial temperature was T2. The initial temperature is going to get reduced into T1. Okay. So, this is what is going to happen in step 2. The work done by the gas in this process is represented as minus W2. Okay. So, in step 2 work done is called as minus W2, which will be equal to Cv, since it is a adiabatic process, Cv into T2 minus T1. Okay. So, this is step 2 which is going to takes place in Carnot's cycle, and let me call this equation as 2. And what happens in step 3 again? So, step 3 is a isothermal process. So, here the gas is then isothermally compressed to a volume of V4 at temperature T1. Okay. So, again the compression of gas is going to take place in step 3. So, during this compression, let an amount of heat, that is Q1, be rejected into the sink. Okay. So, some amount of heat is going to get rejected into the sink. So, this is what? So, this is measured in heat engine. So, a heat engine is called as a device which is used to determine the heat that flows out spontaneously from a high temperature source to a low temperature sink. So, that is what is called as heat engine. So, here some amount of heat is going to get rejected to the sink. So, that amount of energy or heat is absorbed or determined in step 3. So, the curve 3 represents, so this is the curve 3, that is C and D. So, here you can observe, so isothermal expansion of gas is going to takes place. Okay. So, this C and D represents step 3 of Carnot's cycle. So, here let me call as the work done as W3. So, since this is step 3, so W3 will be equals to RT1 ln V4 divided by V3. So, since the process which is going to take place in this step is a isothermal process, is going to take place. So, during this compression, so some amount of heat energy, so that is Q1 is going to get rejected into the sink. So, for that reason, so we are going to write it as W3 is equals to RT1 ln V4 divided by V3. Okay. and the last step is step 4. So what happens here? In step 4, the gas is then compressed adiabatically. So this is the fourth step where we will observe a adiabatic reaction to the original volume of V1. So here the curve dA represents step 4. So what happens? So since the gas is going to get compressed adiabatically, the system returns to the original state and the cycle gets completed. So again, by adiabatically, again the gas is going to get compressed. When it gets compressed, so again it will return to the volume V1 and reaches to the initial state V1. That completes the cycle. So the temperature of the system increases to T2 from T1. Again, the temperature is going to get increased from T2 to T1 in step 4. So the work done on the gas in this step will be equal to, so W4, let me call it as W4. W4 is the work done in step 4. W4 is equals to Cv into T1 minus T2, or I can rearrange this equation and I can write it as minus Cv into T2 minus T1. Okay, so and let me call this equation as equation number 4. Now I got 4 equations, that is 4 different steps which are going to happen in Carnot's cycle, and each step is represented by a equation which I have named it as 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay. Now I can get the total work done in all the process. How to get the total work done? If we sum up all the work which has been carried out in each step, each 4 steps, so I am going to get the total work done in all the process. Okay. So for that what I am going to do, so W will be equal to the sum of all the work, so that is minus W1 plus minus W2 plus W3 plus W4. Okay. So this is the sum of all the work which gives the total work done in all the process. From equation 1, 2, 3 and 4, just substitute the values. What is the value of minus W1? So minus W1 is equals to, so where it is, minus W1 is equals to RT2 ln V2 divided by V1, and W2 is equals to Cv into T2 minus T1. So substitute all the values here, and by rearranging the equation, so I am going to get W is equals to RT2 ln V2 divided by V1 plus RT1 ln V4 divided by V3. Okay. So how I am going to get it? So here Cv T2 minus T1, Cv T2 minus T1, they both get cancelled. Okay. So they both get cancelled and I will get a simplified equation which I am calling it as a equation number 5. Next is since V1 and V4 lies on one adiabatic curve, that is AD, and V2 and V3 lie on another adiabatic curve, that is BC, applying volume temperature relationship we have. So since this curve AD and BC both represents the curves of adiabatic curve, adiabatic reactions are going to take place there. Since it represents the adiabatic curve, so I can apply volume temperature relationship to this curves. Okay. So according to the volume temperature relationship, I can write it as, so T2 V1, so gamma minus 1, which will be equal to T1 V4 gamma minus 1, and let me call this equation as 6. Similarly, for the adiabatic curve BC, I can write it T2 V2 gamma minus 1, which will be equals to T1 V3 gamma minus 1. So next what we have to do is we have to divide the equation 6 by 7. Dividing the equation 6 by 7, so we are going to get this equation 8. Okay. So what happens here? So here T1 T2 T2 will get cancelled, T1 T1 will get cancelled, and rest of the things are written here. Okay. So you please observe it carefully. Since I am doing it in PowerPoint presentation, it may be confusing for you, these equations, chemical mathematical terms. You keep your textbook in front of you and also observe what and all the changes or the mathematical changes that are going to take place here. So, nothing. So, we are dividing equation 6 by 7. So, here T2 will get cancelled and T1 will get cancelled, and the rest of the things I have written here, and here this gamma minus 1, so that also will get cancelled, and V1 divided by V2 will be equals to V4 divided by V3. Let me call this equation as 9. And next step is taking the natural logarithm of equation 9. For this equation 9, I am applying the natural logarithm of equation. So, ln is introduced here. Ln V1 divided by V2 will be equals to ln V4 divided by V3. Okay, and I am rearranging this equation. I am taking this equation towards right hand side. I am exchanging the right and left hand side. So, that is why I will get a negative sign here, minus ln V2 divided by V1. Let me call this equation as 10. And next, by substituting the value of equation 5, we have this ln V4 divided by V3. So, this ln V4 divided by V3. So, this equation is substituted in equation number 5. So, what is equation number 5? So, here. So, this is the equation number 5. So, here to this I am substituting the value of equation number 10. Okay. So, if you observe it clearly, you will understand. You refer in your textbook and you will understand it clearly. So, here by simplifying this equation, so here RT2 and minus RT1, so this is taken as common. Okay. So, this is taken as common, and T2 minus T1 is taken towards one side. R is taken as common, and R ln V2 divided by V1 into. Okay, so both are same, no. So, here this is also V2 divided by V1. So, this is also V2 divided by V1. So, I am taking this T2 and T1 separate. Okay, so T2 minus T1. So, let me call this equation as 11. So, we know that in our last class we discussed what is efficiency, how we are going to define efficiency. Efficiency nu is equals to W divided by Q2. Let me call this equation as 12. So, now we have got equation 12 and equation 11. So, this is equation 11 and equation 12. Now, substitute these values in equation 1 or in efficiency. Okay. So, efficiency nu will be equals to, so W, what is meant by W? W is R ln V2 divided by V1 into T2 minus T1 divided by what is Q2? Q2 is RT2 ln V2 divided by V1. Okay. So, here again by simplifying it, so here R ln V2 divided by V1 will get cancelled out. Okay. So, R ln V2 divided by V1, R ln V2 divided by V1 will get cancelled, and what is left is T2 minus T1 divided by T2. Okay. So, T2 minus T1 divided by T2 is left. Let me call this equation as 13. Understood? So, from equation 13, so it follows that heat engine can have a efficiency of 1 if the temperature of the sink T1 is at absolute 0. So, this is not possible in any practical heat engine. So, therefore, efficiency of any practical engine is less than 1. So, efficiency will never be greater than 1. So, it will always be less than 1. So, that is because, so here the heat engine have an efficiency of 1 if the temperature of the sink T1 is at absolute 0. Okay. So, the temperature at the sink T1 will be at absolute 0. Further, the efficiency of any engine can be increased by having a greater temperature difference between the source and the sink. If there is a greater difference in the temperature between the engine and the sink, so then the efficiency of any engine can be increased. Okay. So, this is what the Carnot's engine is used to study the change of heat, or the how the flow of heat is going to take place spontaneously from high temperature source to the low temperature sink is studied with the help of Carnot's cycle. Okay. So, based on this Carnot cycle, so you have two problems, that is, one is calculate the efficiency of a heat engine working between 403 Kelvin and 315 degree Kelvin. So, here they have given temperature. So, then it is very easy. So, this by taking this equation, he is asking us to calculate the efficiency, right, calculate the efficiency of a heat engine working between 403 Kelvin and 315 Kelvin. So, since this is higher temperature 403 Kelvin, so this will be T2, and this is 315 Kelvin means this will be T1. We know T2 and T1 by using this equation. So, here nu is called the efficiency, nu is equals to T2 minus T1 divided by T2. So, that means here 403 minus 315 divided by 403 will give the efficiency of a heat engine. Okay. So, this is how we are going to calculate, and another one problem is there. So, this has been already solved in your book, textbook. You go through it, and if you do not understand anything, you can ask me when we will have a Google Meet session. Okay. And the next part of interest in second law of thermodynamics is thermodynamic scale of temperature. So, what is meant by thermodynamic scale of temperature? So, all the methods available to measure the temperature depends on the nature of the working substance. So, this is the common thing. So, the methods which are available, so we measure the temperature of any substance or a system by measuring or by knowing the nature of the working substance, right. Say for example, if you want to measure the temperature of boiling water, so we are going to measure the temperature of that water, that is the nature of the substance. So, whether it is in a vaporized form or whether it is in a solid form, whether it is in a liquid form, by looking at the nature. If it is in solid form, then the temperature will be minus degree, minus 0, minus 4, minus 10, or if it is in a vapor state, then the temperature will be more than 100 degree centigrade. So, likewise we are going to determine the temperature. That means, all the methods which are available to measure the temperature depends on nature of the working substance. For example, a mercury thermometer depends on the expansion of mercury, how the mercury is going to get expanded. So, by knowing the expansion of the mercury, we are going to determine the temperature. So, what is the temperature is measured by studying the expansion of the mercury in a mercury thermometer. So, Lord Kelvin thought of defining a temperature scale which does not depend on the nature of the material of the thermometric substances. So, here Lord Kelvin he wanted to define the temperature which is independent of or which does not depend on the nature of the material. For this purpose, he considered the efficiency of a Carnot's heat engine as a scale. So, since the efficiency depends on working temperature of the source and sink and not on the nature of the working substance. Okay. So, according to Lord Kelvin, so Lord Kelvin he defined a temperature based on the temperature change between the system and the sink or the source and the sink, but it does not depend upon the nature of the substance, okay, nature of the working substance. So, this scale is known as thermodynamic scale of temperature. Okay. A thermodynamic scale of temperature means, so it is a temperature which is defined based on the source and sink, based on the temperature, working temperature of the source and sink, and not on the nature of the working substance. So, this is what is called as a thermodynamic scale of temperature. So, in this case of Carnot's engine, efficiency nu will be called as Q2 minus Q1 divided by Q2, or it is also called as T2 minus T1 divided by T2, or we can simplify this equation like nu will be equal to 1 minus Q1 divided by Q2, which will be equal to 1 minus T1 divided by T2. From this it is clear that when T1 is equals to 0, then the efficiency of Carnot's engine is unity. Okay. So, this is what is called as thermodynamic scale of temperature. So, by knowing this, by knowing the concept what has been given by Lord Kelvin, who thought of defining a temperature scale which does not depend upon the nature of the material, we can define Carnot's theorem. What is meant by Carnot's theorem? So, the Carnot's theorem says that the efficiency of a reversible heat engine depends only upon the temperature of the source and the sink and is independent of nature of the working substance. Okay. So, this is what I explained now. So, the efficiency of a reversible heat engine depends only upon the temperature of the source and the sink, and it is independent of the nature of the working substance. In other words, all reversible heat engines working between the same two temperatures have the same efficiency. Okay. So, this is what is called as Carnot's theorem. So, I am going to stop it here, and in my next class we will discuss about what is meant by entropy and what is the state function, whether the state function entropy is a state function, that means whether is it independent, and the derivation of an expression for entropy from Carnot cycle. So, all these concepts we will discuss in our next class. Okay. I thank you, dear students.